the dark truth about BMW and Holocaust. Germany's post-war success has been largely attributed to its commitment to never forget the tragedies of the Holocaust. According to scholar David de Jong, however, the Nazi legacies of Germany's wealthiest families show the nation's struggle to live up to that promise. In today's video, we're going to talk about a very hot topic that David de Jong has opened up. So, without any further ado, let's get in. The Holocaust, often spelled as the Shoah, was World War II's mass murder of Jews in Europe. 6 million Jews, roughly two-thirds of the Jewish population in Europe, were methodically murdered by Nazi Germany and its allies between 1941 and 1945 while living under German occupation. The killings took place in pogroms and mass shootings, as well as through a policy of labor-based extermination in concentration camps and the use of gas chambers and gas vans in German camps, primarily Auschwitz, Birkenau, Biek, Chemno, Majdanek, Sobibor, and Treblinka in occupied Poland. Senior government leaders debated the Nazis' extermination scheme, known as the final solution to the Jewish question, at the Wannsee Conference in Berlin in January 1942, culminating in the segregation of Jews in ghettos. All anti-Jewish actions became more extreme as German forces advanced into the east. Killings took place inside Germany throughout occupied Europe and in areas under the authority of Germany's allies, all coordinated by the SS and under the highest leadership of the Nazi Party. In the summer of 1941, paramilitary death squads known as Einsatzgruppen, working alongside the German army and local accomplices, massacred over 1.3 million Jews in pogroms and mass murders. By the middle of 1942, victims were being transported from ghettos all over Europe in tightly closed freight trains to extermination camps, where if they survived the journey, they would have been gassed, worked, or beaten to death, or would have perished from disease, starvation, cold, medical experiments, or during death marches. The killing persisted until May 1945, when World War II in Europe concluded. Although the Holocaust is often regarded as primarily a genocide against the Jewish people, systematic mass executions of other racial and ethnic groups also occurred during this time. This included targeted populations such as the Roma, Poles, Ukrainians, Soviet citizens, and prisoners of war. Jehovah's Witnesses, Black Germans, the crippled, and homosexuals were just a few smaller groups that endured terrible Nazi persecution. In the most recent book of David de Jong, Nazi Billionaires, The Dark History of Germany's Wealthiest Dynasties, he tells this tale. The brazen whitewashing that continues to occur today by businesses like BMW and Porsche, he claimed, astonished him the most. He openly said the families that control them are maintaining global foundations in the name of their patriarchs, such as Ferry Porsche, who designed the first Porsche sports car, or Herbert Quandt, who saved BMW from bankruptcy. David de Jong further mentioned their business successes are celebrated, but the war crimes they committed or the Nazi affiliations they had, like being voluntary SS officers, are omitted on the websites of these foundations. The Quandts are linked to the atrocities committed by Hitler's Nazi dictatorship and possesses 46.6% of the automaker BMW. Their estimated net worth is 20 billion euros. The movie is especially relevant today because of the financial and economic crisis that is reminiscent of the events of the 1930s. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet to show your support. Now let's continue. The Quandt family is reluctant to talk about how they supported the Nazi regime and the brutal labor practices in the death camps, which directly contributed to their fortune. The family has not made any restitution to the survivors of the crimes committed in their company-owned concentration camps, nor have any family members ever faced criminal charges. The family now spends most of its time away from the public eye. Family members are only sporadically depicted in photographs or films from the years following the end of World War II. Statements and interviews were consistently declined, and security personnel even forcibly stopped recording outside the Quandt family home. At the end of the war, the Allied forces organized the Nuremberg War Crimes Tribunal's prosecution of industrial barons for crimes against humanity and enslavement, including Flick, Krupp, and the directors of the IG Farben chemicals conglomerate, which had produced the Zyklon B gas used in the gas chambers. Several industrial tycoons were given prison sentences of several years and had their wealth seized. Gunther Quandt was able to avoid prosecution, though. Before the Americans detained him for 2 years in 1946, he first spent a year living undercover in Bavaria. Quandt presented himself as a victim of the Nazis, using esoteric justifications. Gunther Quandt, their grandfather, was a really good friend of Hitler. He used prisoners of war as laborers in his enterprises. Their father, Herbert Quandt, is alleged to have committed war crimes while a member of the Nazi Party. A Quandt family spokeswoman told NPR that the family had been open about its Nazi heritage and previous involvement with forced labor. The family had also donated millions to honor the fate of World War II forced laborers. But de Jong argues members of the Quandt family still struggle to reconcile their past. past. De Jong said in his book, "I think it's very hard for these heirs to distance themselves from their father and grandfather. They live in the shadow of these people. They didn't make their fortunes themselves, so their entire identity derives from the fortunes created by their father and grandfather, Gunther and Herbert. And to disavow the family patriarchs is basically to disavow their own identities." There is ample evidence linking the Nazis to well-known auto manufacturers. Adolf Hitler's party established a government-owned business in May of 1937 that was subsequently known as Volkswagen, or the People's Car Company. Hitler himself commissioned Ferdinand Porsche, the company's founder, to create it. Never forget, according to De Jong, entails facing the past head-on with complete sincerity. You learn about history by showing the good and bad, De Jong said, not showing that Herbert Quandt had the responsibility of a battery factory in Berlin, where thousands of forced slave laborers were used, including female slave laborers from concentration camps. You learn nothing about his history. De Jong believes that historical openness is the basic least demanded of the multinational foundation and businesses these families run. Well, that's all for today's video. Please tell us in the comment section how this one was. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing for more. And don't forget to give comments and provide us with your valuable feedback. We'll see you in the next video with some more interesting facts and stories. And until then, stay tuned.